Hi guys, it's Elise from frugalfarmwife.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is super easy to make. It's not something that is really in our collective cultural vocabulary or recipe collection, but it's really easy, and you're going to see just how easy in a minute. Let me show you what you need. A head of cabbage. A good sized head of cabbage will typically make about a quart of sauerkraut. And I'm going to put mine in 2-pint jars because, as we learned in math, 2 pints makes a quart. A tablespoon of salt. Here I have just a jar of Kansas gray sea salt. A sharp knife. And optionally, a food processor. I am definitely going to be pulling out my food processor in a minute, and I will show you how I use that to make sauerkraut. And the most important thing when you're making sauerkraut is a clean area. So as I said, making sauerkraut is super easy, but you do not, under any circumstances, want to introduce the wrong bacteria into your sauerkraut. That is what will make it go bad. Now the good news is you will know if your sauerkraut has gone bad. It's not something that you smell it or you taste it and you're like, I'm not sure, is it good, is it bad, is it safe to eat? You'll know, you'll see mold, you'll see rot, and you'll know, if your sauerkraut is good, it will look like sauerkraut and it will taste like sauerkraut. So yeah, as long as you keep your surfaces clean, your jars are clean, your hands, your knife, you're good to go. Sauerkraut, super easy. Alright, so I'm going to pull out my food processor and we will get this started.
Here you can see that I'm setting up my food processor with the slicer blade side up, not the shred blade. You need the slicer blade because remember, your cabbage is already in layers, so the shredder will make it a little too fine. Next, we will just cut our cabbage into pieces that are small enough to fit into our food processor receptacle, and you'll note that I have left out a few of the top leaves to use as tamp down leaves at the end of the process of making sauerkraut, and I'll show you that in a minute. And from there, we're just going to shred and shred and shred. And then, of course, once our food processor is full, we will just transfer it over to a large bowl and repeat the process with the rest of the head of cabbage. Now the next step is to add a tablespoon of sea salt or other uniodized salt to your bowl of cabbage and mix it up really good. You can see that I'm using my hands for the mixing process, and that is so I can squeeze and kind of bruise the cabbage up a little and really get that salt in. Once you get that salt worked in there, it's going to start pulling moisture out of the cabbage, which is going to be the liquid in your cabbage jar that kind of seals out all the air bubbles that can contain contaminants and keep it nice and clean inside your jar. And then we're just going to stuff it into jars, just continuing to use your hands. A lot of people will use some sort of blunt object for this, like a large wooden spoon or meat tenderizer, and that's fine. I just find that hands are a lot more efficient in this case if you don't mind getting a little bit of salt and cabbage all over your fingers. And you'll see there that I am adding a top leaf, and that is just to kind of seal the shredded cabbage that we will be eating underneath of that moisture line, and so that it's not exposed to oxidation. And when the cabbage is ready, we'll just take that leaf out and discard it, and underneath we'll have beautiful fermented sauerkraut.
So that's all there is to making sauerkraut. Super easy. All you need is cabbage, salt, and a cutting board, or if you want to get fancy, like I did, a food processor. That head of cabbage made almost 3 pints of sauerkraut, and on average a head's going to make about a quart, some a little less, some a little more like this one. This was a big head. And now what I'm going to do with these is just set them back somewhere where they won't be disturbed to ferment for about a week. The lids are going to be on loosely, not tight, so that gas bubbles can escape. And yeah, in about a week, in about 5 to 6 days, I will taste them to see how they're doing and decide whether they need another day or two to ferment before I put them in the fridge for safekeeping. Alright, so my next project is going to be making goat milk soup. As you can see, I've got a pan with a bag of frozen goat milk in it right now. thawing out, so look for a video on that soon. And let me know what you think about this. If you've ever made sauerkraut before, I would love to hear your experience. And yeah, leave a comment in the comment box below. I'll talk to you next time.